Hey everyone, welcome back. A little bit of a different background. It's not mornings with Alex today, it's evenings with Alex, but I wanted to show you guys the amazing view that I have behind me. Very blessed, very thankful to have this view. It's not the best view in Shanghai, but it's definitely not bad. And Shanghai itself is a super modern city. It's beautiful. I'm from the States, from San Francisco, from California, and the cities that are in the U.S., they're just not built like they are in China. A lot of cities in China are very modern, very recently built. They're continually rebuilding the city all the time. So you have just amazing contrast between kind of the older areas and the new areas where everything is a skyscraper, everything is built with metal and glass and looks spectacularly modern and is beautiful. So China's quite a treat. And it's been so impressive to see what they've been able to do in just a few years. But I wanted to talk about something that's a little bit less serious today. I'm sure for all the guys out there, you're wondering what is Shanghai like? What kind of trouble can you get into while you're here? That kind of thing. And I've noticed a little bit of a pattern between myself and also my friends that have come from similar backgrounds. They've come from either Europe or the US or Canada, and they've moved to Shanghai, and we've all kind of gone down the same path, especially if you are an Asian American, Asian Canadian, etc. It's just different living amongst people that look like you. Not to be racist, not to bring race or ethnicity into the question, but just objectively from my personal experience, it's different. It's different. Even in the U.S., even in San Francisco of all places, I still feel a little bit like a minority. I know that's the San Francisco is already a great place to be Asian American because there's so much diversity there. But when you come to China, you do feel like you're more of the majority, and it is a different feeling. It's interesting that way. But anyways, when you get here, when you get to Shanghai, you're gonna be just wowed by all of the amazing infrastructure here. And then, you're gonna start and explore a little bit. You're gonna go out, and Shanghai is great for going out. I mean, there are a ton of bars, clubs, so many different ways to get into a little bit of trouble. And Shanghai is a very modern city, actually, right? So it's a very metropolitan and modern city. So there's all types of different venues. You have the more traditional bars. You also have the more modern, Western type bars. You also have a great range of music. There's a jazz club that I've been to. There's your EDM places, your hip hop places. Shanghai kind of has it all in terms of different venues, from something that's more divey to something that's very upscale. It's really a great place to go and have some fun. And the restaurant selection is also amazing here. So in terms of amenities, especially if you still have a little bit of energy and you want to go out and explore, Shanghai is a great place for that. So what's the progression for guys that come out to Shanghai? It's pretty simple. There's not too much to get into, and I can talk about this more in the future. But normally when you come out here, you have to admit there are a lot of very beautiful, talented women here, and the body shapes are a little bit different. In general, Asians and the Chinese in Shanghai tend to be a little bit skinnier, and their makeup style and that can be a little bit different too. But for me, it actually suits me quite well. So walking around here, I feel like there are a lot of just beautiful women, and it's great to be in a place where you're surrounded by them. And when you go out, there's some pretty faces. There are some people that have quite a bit of plastic surgery. That's just not my thing. In Korea, I think plastic surgery was a big deal a few years ago, and I know it's still very popular now. In China, that same thing is kind of happening. I think the population is earning more, and those that can afford it, they often do go and get plastic surgery. And there is a certain look that I think that Chinese society has agreed on as being beautiful. And when these girls go and they get that plastic surgery, sometimes they do end up looking very similar. So I don't want to say too much about that. Everyone is entitled to how they want to what decisions they make on their body. For me, I'm into someone that's a little bit more natural and has less plastic surgery. Not necessarily just because of looks, but because I think that it's important to be happy and confident in your own body. And if that if for you that takes a little plastic surgery, that's okay. If not, that's even better. That's great. But I don't want to talk too much about that. But you come out here, and Shanghai is great. It's so modern. There's so many of these great venues. You're surrounded by these beautiful girls. The cost of living in Shanghai, although not cheap, it's quite expensive. Actually, more expensive than you think. It is cheaper than other places. So San Francisco being one of them, New York being another. Shanghai is more affordable for the basic necessities. It's also incredibly convenient. So in the States we have Uber. Here they have something called Didi, which is essentially the same thing. But Didi costs maybe 15, 30 renminbi. That means a ride in Didi in the city could cost you $5, at most $10, and that's in huge contrast to taking an Uber, in the States where you're paying maybe $30 a night one way, right, to get to your destination, to get to your venue and back. So Shanghai is definitely much more convenient. It's also a lot safer. So if you go out and you're out late, and you've had a couple drinks, you don't have to worry so much about personal safety. You should always be vigilant still, but in general, I feel very safe in China. Probably, if I had to score it, I'd say 10 times safer. So I think that is a great thing, and something that, unless you've been here and you've experienced it, it's hard to put a price on how important and how much confidence that gives you just in your day-to-day living. So like I said, guys come out here, there's great opportunity to have fun. There's great bars, great venues, and you go a little bit crazy sometimes. It's very easy to meet people. And then after a while, I'd say like a year or two, people tend to settle down a little bit. They normally find that right one, and things settle down a little bit. But if you want to have fun, Shanghai is quite a young city, and there's definitely a lot of opportunity to go out and explore and date if that's what you want to do. Shanghai, I would say, is kind of like the Chinese version of New York, except the infrastructure is even more modern than New York, to be honest. More modern, and in some ways, cleaner. For example, the subway and everything is really spotless. It's amazing. And in New York, the subway there is a little bit grungier, a little bit more of a little bit more risky in a lot of ways. So Shanghai's great. Shanghai's great for nightlife. So how much do you spend in Shanghai, and what are the clubs and venues like? So like I said, there's a diverse number of different venues. You can go out to a dive bar. You can go out to kind of what are they called? You can go out to, okay, remember. So it's called a speakeasy, right? So you can go out to dive bars. There are quite a few speakeasies. You can have whiskey, wine, cocktails. There's also a great number of hotels with amazing views of Shanghai skyline of Pudong. So you can go out there, spend a little bit more on drinks, but be pampered a little bit. Of course, there are your typical clubs, dance places like that too. Live bands also are here, jazz, basically anything you could want in terms of late night entertainment they have in Shanghai. What does it normally cost to go out? Well, drinks are at a nicer place anywhere from 60 kwai, so about $10, all the way up to $20. 120 kwai for a drink is not unheard of. It can even be a little bit more expensive than that, depending on where you're going. But anywhere from $10 to $20 a drink is what you're looking to spend in Shanghai if you're going out to a nicer place. If you go out clubbing, the clubs here have a little bit of a funny policy. Sometimes they have cover that you have to pay, and sometimes you don't. Normally, if you head out a little bit later or you head out early, there's no cover in a lot of these clubs. In terms of lines, you do have to wait sometimes, but if you're kind of friendly with the bouncer, then you can normally get in. And again, if you go early or you go later, it's not normally an issue. I think cover or waiting in line has never been a reason for me or my friends not to go out. That's never really been an issue. When you get into the club, when you get into these venues, depending on the type of venue, they either have it, well, not either. I mean, most of these venues, they do sell tables, and depending on the club that you go to, there's going to be a higher proportion of tables to just walking and dance area. Unfortunately, in Shanghai, a lot of these clubs do sell the majority of their space. They do reserve the majority of their space for table service. And so, you might find yourself in a situation where you want to go to a club, but you want to spend a lot of money, and there's just not a whole lot of room to like dance or move around. It's going to be super crowded. But there are better clubs than that too. So LeBaron or LeBron, or it's pronounced so many different ways. I apologize if I'm butchering it. I think it's like a French name. Is a little bit better. There's definitely more space to move around and dance. But I think when I was there, the speakers are a little bit loud, so you might be a little bit hard of hearing. I actually really like a place called Tax, T-A-X-X, because they play EDM mainly, and they have a lot of laser lights, and I love laser lights in EDM, or at least I used to when I first came to Shanghai. Unfortunately, that place has a pretty small dance area. It's only towards the front of the stage, and the rest of it is table seating. And then another really popular place is called, what is it called? Okay, I looked it up. Another really popular place is called ASL. They play a little bit more hip hop, R&B music. They have different live DJs. It's a smaller venue, and I would say they definitely sell a lot of table space too, so it can be crowded, but because it's a small place to begin with, their ratio of kind of dance area to table area is actually pretty good compared to a lot of other clubs. I've been in Beijing, and some of those venues are just all table. Like you're walking between tables or in front of tables and balconies, and there's almost no space to actually dance. One thing that's a little bit different, if you are someone that likes to dance, is dancing in China. It's a little bit less of a thing, actually. People seem to prefer like tables more, and the girls like to dance, but the guys normally are just kind of on their phone, drinking, talking with each other, smoking. They're not really into dancing that much, but any place that you go to, you're going to be able to find kind of a dance floor where the people that do like to dance are out there dancing a little bit. And for me, I'm not the best dancer, but I like to have fun, and dancing is a great way to blow up some steam. What does a typical night look like? You're probably going to pay $5 for a cab ride there, $5 for a cab ride back, a DD ride, I mean, and you're probably going to have 3 drinks or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe less, depending on who you are and how much you can drink. So I would say about $100 US, or about 600 kwai a night is pretty good. You can definitely spend more if you get table service. Table service can be anywhere from $500 US all the way up to $3,000 or even $10,000 US. So you can spend quite a bit of money in Shanghai if you want to, depending on what drinks you order, which table you get, that kind of thing. But if you want to just go out with a couple friends, not get a table, have a couple drinks and go out, you can probably get by for anywhere from like $80 to $100 a person and have a pretty good time. So you come out to Shanghai, you're exploring, you're making new friends, you're having the time of your life. After a while, I found with most people, it does wear off a little bit. You stop going out as much. I think this is true anywhere, San Francisco, New York. And then you just try and enjoy the city for, things that are not so nightlife-y. But that option is always there still. And it can still be fun to go out. But for me, about 2 years of that, and I got over it like pretty quickly. I'm pretty career focused, so I don't spend that much time going out. And it's quite pricey, and it's not the most healthy thing for you. So now that I work out, and I'm a little bit more focused on my career, and I'm dating someone, then I just don't go out nearly as much. But it's fun, and that's always an option in Shanghai. Just to go out with some friends, play some beer pong. So of course you can do all the typical things, but you can also go bowling. You can play beer pong. There are a couple of venues that are a little bit more, like more fun, more interactive. You can do this type of events with just a small group of friends. I actually enjoy that quite a bit now. But Shanghai is great. There's almost any kind of cuisine imaginable. Japanese, of course Chinese, American burgers. There's New York style pizza just a couple blocks away. Almost any cuisine, Thai food. They have Peruvian food and Brazilian food. Almost everything they have here, and you can go anywhere from really local. You could spend something like 15, 30 kwai a meal, all the way up to hundreds and hundreds of dollars US per meal. They have a ton of Michelin star restaurants, in Shanghai. The funny thing is actually I find that the Michelin star restaurants from a, you know, palate taste, from a, you know, enjoyment eating taste is not normally the best value. Sometimes I feel like the Michelin restaurants, you know, it's an experience, but the food is actually not that great. I find that the restaurants where you're paying about $100 to $150 per person, you know, actually end up tasting a lot better. I know that's a lot of money, but some of these Michelin restaurants are easily $300-400 a person. And in my experience, they're not always worth it. So Shanghai is great. I mean, so many different types of food. If you like hot pot, you can go out and get amazing hot pot. Hot pot is basically like it's hard to describe this for someone that's not familiar with hot pot. At least describe it in a way that it sounds good. But basically, like, you sit down at a table. This is very popular with Chinese. You get a big pot, basically, of soup, and it might be half and half. So you might have spicy, and you might have a non-spicy on one side, and it's broth. And then it's kind of like fondue. You'll take meats or vegetables or different things like that and dip them and basically boil them on each side and then eat it that way. And you'll have some sauce on the side that you can make with like onions, some vinegar, some soy sauce, and you can eat the food and kind of enjoy each other's company. I think the idea behind hot pot is really to take your time and talk with each other and kind of hang out over some food. So hot pot is super popular in Shanghai. I've been to a number of places, and they all taste really great. So there's so much variety in Shanghai for nightlife. Actually, I think honestly anything that you could want, you can find in Shanghai. So this is just a little bit of a fun video, nothing too serious. If you have any questions about Shanghai, or you have any comments, please let me know. I'm happy to talk more and share more about my experience in Shanghai. But this is just something that I thought would be fun to kind of discuss, show you guys the view a little bit, and that's it. So have a great night. See you guys. Bye.